Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Steil, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. Appreciate you holding today's hearing. I think it's absolutely essential that we have this conversation, in particular when we see the massive concentration between ISS and Glass Lewis as it relates to proxy advisors in their advice, which is sometimes pretty suspect. Sometimes we see them get the facts wrong. Sometimes even the name of the CEO they're getting wrong in some of their information. If I can start with you, Mr. Nittram. Is there a reason we shouldn't be able to see the analytical process that's playing out by these two proxy advisors that have a pretty clear duopoly on the advice?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Sure, they're providing information, but we don't have visibility into the methodologies that these proxy advisors are using. Should we have visibility into the methodologies that these two proxy advisors are using?
Absolutely. We need to have visibility into the methodologies, their sources of information, and their conflicts of interest.
I think that's essential. Do you agree, Mr. Doyle?
I do.
Mr. Berry?
Absolutely.
It seems like that it should be absolutely essential. It seems a bit of a no-brainer. And then we have Chairman Gensler striking down the original proxy advisor rule as drafted when Chairman Clayton was there. Do you know what the rational thought would be behind that, Mr. Nittram?
I believe that the rationale was to reverse the Clayton era changes, thinking that they gave too much power to companies.
But really what we're doing is allowing ISS and Glass Lewis to be completely unaccountable. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So it's really the net effect of Chairman Gensler's decision was to actually allow these two entities to be able to operate in the dark with no oversight from the federal government as they're providing advice. But we've seen them provide advice in conflict either with law or in the case of just simple errors without an ability for companies to be able to simply come back and counter the information that's being provided. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Doyle?
I do.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
I mean, what's the impact, Mr. Berry, when you allow this duopoly to play out, when misinformation is being produced, or information that just simply needs to be countered because one of the proxy advisors views it in the best interest of a company for that company to engage in illegal behavior? For example, the Travelers case, where a proxy advisor recommended in favor of a shareholder proposal, which would have required Travelers, in that case, to engage in illegal behavior by altering the price of insurance based on race, which is outlawed in our states, rightfully so.
Yep. Inadequate oversight of the proxy advisors means they're going to be giving the store away to shareholder activists to drive all kinds of behavior, including stuff that can be illegal.
Mr. Nittram, do you agree with that?
I agree, yes.
And what's the solution to this then, Mr. Nittram? I have a bill, you've commented on it previously, that actually allows us to shine light, to have some disclosure, some understanding, some oversight over this duopoly. Do you think that's an appropriate approach?
I think legislation is desperately needed here to bring some transparency to this process.
What do you think the key aspects of that transparency should be?
I think there are two keys. First is disclosing conflicts of interest, disclosing methodologies, disclosing their sources of information so that investors can see exactly what's going on here. And then second, making sure that the anti-fraud standards actually apply to proxy advisory firms.
Making sure that what standards?
The anti-fraud standards.
Absolutely. There should be some accountability to ISS and Glass Lewis if they're engaged in providing advice that's either misleading, incorrect, or in the case of Travelers, illegal. Is that right?
That is correct.
Does the legislation that I've put forward accomplish that goal, in your opinion?
It absolutely does.
Mr. Berry, do you have further comment on that?
I think if we can cut down on the agency problems with the proxy advisors in the same way we care about agency between shareholders and owners and managers, that would be a huge improvement.
So we should disclose conflicts of interest?
Absolutely.
And do you see conflicts of interest in the two largest proxy advisor firms?
Yeah, especially between consulting and proxy advice, there's real issues there.
Mr. Doyle, I see you nodding your head. You agree with that?
I do, and I would also mention that this committee, members on this committee, and others have supported through a bipartisan way to respond to and to try to alleviate some of those conflicts.
I think at a minimum we should have disclosure. I think it's abysmal that Chairman Gensler struck down the Clayton rule. I think it moves us away from further disclosure. It allows these two proxy advisors to operate in the dark. I think we actually need to have a more robust regime than was even the rule in place I appreciate you being here, your testimony today. Madam Chairwoman, I yield back.